I am Kassandra Brenot, and I am the Director of Global Education at Santa Catalina School in Monterey, California. And I am so happy I took part in the International Coalition of Girls' Schools Global Action Research Collaborative. Barcelona, Monterey, Toronto together. Let's talk hunger. Developing global competence through virtual exchange in year 10, 11, and 12 girls in the Spanish language classroom. At ICGS's third Global Forum for Girls' Education in Boston in 2022, Liberian women's rights advocate Nobel laureate Lema Gabawe asked the audience during her keynote address, "How good is our globalism if we can't make it local? Is the way we are educating our girls preparing them to stand up and use their voices?" This question for me as a global educator and French and Spanish teacher highlighted the mission of both girls' education and, more broadly speaking, global education. Global education develops the knowledge, skills, and empathic orientation required to understand multiple perspectives and to thrive in increasingly interconnected world systems. As a global educator, I aim to develop my students' global competence so they can understand and address the world's shared challenges with courage, grace, and compassion. How can I do this in a deeper way? With the onset of COVID, lockdowns forced teachers to be resourceful, creative, and flexible. We quickly adapted by leveraging technology and embracing digital innovations to make our teaching possible and accessible. How can we now leverage what we've learned because of the pandemic to deepen our commitment to intentional, curricular-driven, equitable global education? These questions led me to ponder international virtual exchange and to ask the question, how does international virtual exchange develop global competence in 15 to 17-year-old girls in the Spanish language classroom? The setting for my research was Santa Catalina School, an independent Catholic boarding school in Monterey, California. The participants in my study were all of the students in my Spanish 3 honors class. They are 8 curious and highly motivated girls in years 10, 11, and 12. The action and data collection were conducted over the course of 15 class meetings. My students participated in a series of synchronous and asynchronous virtual exchanges with students at all girls' schools in Barcelona and Toronto. Spanish was used as the lingua franca. For our asynchronous exchanges, we used 2 applications, Padlet and Flip. I framed our virtual exchanges around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 2, Zero Hunger. This gave the students a focus for their exchanges, spurring the students to investigate a major global challenge experienced in our community as well as those of their exchange partners. As an icebreaker, the students first exchanged videos introducing themselves, then shared photos of their school and home meals, and posted comments about their partners' meals. A general increase in cosmopolitanism was quickly apparent.
Hola, Blanca, Cristina, Valentina y Gisela. Soy Tanusha y tengo 15 años y soy de Gilroy, California.
Hola, soy Nadia, tengo 16 años y soy de San Francisco, California.
Hola.
Hola.
Hola, soy Edurne. Hola, soy Paula. Hola, soy Alba. Hola, soy Marisa. Hola, soy Pilar. Hola, soy Mari. Hola, soy Irene. Hola, soy Claudia y somos del Colegio Lavae.
To ascertain how my students developed global competence, I amassed data by way of questionnaires, focus group interviews, research observations, and observers' field notes, work samples, and classroom artifacts as preparation for and byproducts of the virtual exchanges. The deliberate use of various data sources aimed to polyangulate the data. I drew on the work of Veronica Boix-Mancilla and Anthony Jackson to analyze my data, which aligned with the OECD Global Competence Framework. My analysis of data indicated that virtual exchange demonstrably develops girls' global competence by providing opportunities for them to interact internationally with peers from diverse backgrounds and perspectives. Each girl demonstrated and articulated growth in global competence because of the virtual exchanges. My first finding was that virtual exchange, or VE, spurs students to investigate the world beyond their immediate environment. All the students expressed their desire to learn about hunger with their VE partners and researched food insecurity. The VE activities, whether synchronous or asynchronous, prompted conversation, built trust, and expanded horizons.
When I got to learn about communities in Toronto and Spain and learn about like the lines for the hunger and how many people are suffering from the food, I think it gave me new perspective.
And also learning about how different things that are happening on the world are affecting different countries. For example, the war in Ukraine is really causing Spain to have more lines for the food banks and all that.
I thought it was really interesting to be able to talk with the other girls and just learn that we're all really similar and we're all like living very similar lives, even though they're in like Canada and Spain and we're here.
I also think culturally it was interesting learning about, especially in Spain, how late the people eat there, and obviously in the US, Canada, and Spain, like the different cuisines that we eat, time that we eat, it all kind of differs, so that I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and we're all different but similar in multiple ways, which was really fun to learn about.
Before that, like, I only look at the news and look at what's happening on the world, like only the important thing or like the interesting part. But now, like, I care about the hungers. For example,
Finding 2. VE helps girls to recognize different perspectives. The students' ability to recognize and appreciate their own and others' perspectives, cultural differences, and similarities increased.
For me, I think through the project I've gained more perspective, like I said before, and I think it kind of forced us to think of more concrete ideas about what we can do to help in our community, with all the activities and thinking about things that we can actually do in our community and ideas that we have for other communities that we can kind of communicate.
And for me, not only gaining more interest in the topic of global hunger, but also being able to interact with the girls from Spain and getting to improve my Spanish with them.
For me, it's more of like being like more conscious of the specific details of how things affect, because I feel like everyone knows that hunger is an issue, but then figuring out like the economic problems, the problems with people who don't speak the language of their country that they're in, and all of those problems made me more like conscious.
so it can help us being a global citizen, and also we can learn like how to respect other people's idea while sharing our own idea. So first, I think we can like exchange our culture between each other, and we learn from them because we have different cultures. We are from different countries, and also.
Finding 3. VE pushes girls to communicate ideas effectively with diverse audiences in a language other than their own. VE gave the students the space to connect and develop their communication skills. They worked to articulate their ideas clearly, ask questions, engage in conversation, and collaborate.
And I also thought that this project was really important because it helped us to improve our language skills by talking with them. And so while we were learning about these interesting topics, we're also working on improving our language.
And it's also important that we like communicated in Spanish, and it was a great experience for us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like the Padlet and Flipgrid because we like wait for their response and then we can see it, and like it's kind of fun going back and forth with them.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun getting to watch their videos, and also making the board and stuff was a lot of fun because it was more like a visual representation of like all the work we were doing. So,
For me, Flipgrid was really fun, and seeing everyone's videos and getting to know them that way, and also getting to comment and react on their videos was really fun.
It also takes it more, like it seems that we were kind of like friends, even though we didn't actually meet them, how it seemed really personal because we talked about like our hobbies and like how their school day and family life is like, so it made it even more on a deeper level, getting to know them personally, on top of taking into consideration our project as well.
And a highlight for me was just learning in general about this other school, because without the project, like, I wouldn't even know it existed, but it was like, it now feels like it's a place I kind of know. I thought it was just really interesting that while it seemed like it would be really difficult to be talking with people who speak an entirely different language, it wasn't as hard as I was expecting.
For me, it was pretty fun when we first met in the Zoom, when we were in the breakout room, because it was kind of funny because I cannot communicate fluently with the students in Barcelona, but it was pretty fun. Like, we tried to communicate to each other, and then that was a great experience. My biggest takeaway is like to be involved in the project, because it was pretty fun, and then I learned a lot from it. Like, we just said about all the hunger's problems and how can we help them. Yeah.
And for me, it is like we communicate to each other, because like before this project, when we are discussing the things, I'm always the one who's listening, who's like say, yeah, I agree, yeah. And now like I know how to like express my own opinion on lots of topics like hunger and how to solve.
Finding 4. VE prompts problem solving and community engagement. Moved by their discovery of the rates of hunger in Monterey, Barcelona, and Toronto, the students researched and discussed with their partners ways they could help address hunger. This inspired some to take action locally.
Learn more, because I knew before world hunger was an issue, but I never really acted on it. And then now, after our virtual exchange, I've become more interested in talking about it with my family, and recently going on the volunteering at school when we went to Brighter Bites and packaged over 1,000 boxes for communities here in Monterey.
For me, it's like expanded my like being a global citizen in the sense that instead of thinking about similar to what I said before, but instead of thinking about my community, I'm like thinking of actually taking action in other people's communities. Like, for example, like seeing how like far outreach can go outside of your own community and volunteering.
And like before this project, we all know like there are problems in the world like this, but like after and during the project, we actually like do things about it, because we research on it and we know like how severe the problem is. And now outside we have like a food bank like donation, and we also donate food to the Monterey County.
For me, it was interesting to learn about how we all have similar issues that are happening in 3 different countries, and how we take steps to resolve them in similar but also different ways depending on how different our communities are.
And I learned that to help with these problems, that like everyone in the world needs to help, and everyone needs to do their part, and everyone in the community has to contribute something.
This action research provided me with an outstanding opportunity to grow as an educator, and I am deeply grateful to ICGS, to Santa Catalina School, to my colleagues, my students, and to the 2 schools that took part in our virtual exchanges. This research experience has allowed me to see my students and classroom in a new light. Watching my students connect with girls internationally in a foreign language, gain greater empathy, and develop greater global competence has also given me immense joy and satisfaction. Ultimately, it has deepened my commitment to global education. As educators of girls, it's our duty and privilege to prepare girls today to be the leaders of tomorrow who will stand up, use their voices, and take action to make the world a better place.
Gracias por escuchar. Adiós.